Merlin Entertainments Group is the second largest visitor attraction business in the world, and we create memorable experiences with our diverse portfolio of attractions. So we have the observation wheel in London, we have an observation wheel in Orlando, Florida, Madame Tussauds attractions around the world, Alton Towers theme park in the United Kingdom, and our 6 Legoland parks, as well as our Legoland Discovery Centres as well. We are the world's largest aquarium operator, with over 45 different aquariums around the world. So as I mentioned, we are a second largest visitor attraction group in the world. We have about 62 million visitors a year. So we floated as a PLC as of 13th of November in 2013. And we have 114 sites, 12 hotels, 4 holiday villages in 23 different countries, and I've obviously already mentioned the different iconic brands that we have. At peak season, we're up to 27,000 employees across the Merlin estate worldwide, so it's incredibly exciting. For example, we have 24 Merlin attractions in the UK right now. We now have 25 Merlin attractions in the United States, so we're heavily concentrating on our development here in the United States. This is our world of attractions, and you can see some of the attractions and where they kind of heavily cluster. We like to push our attractions close to each other so we can operate them as what we call as a cluster. And we have 2 current Legoland parks here in North America, one in Carlsbad, California, and one in Winter Haven, Florida. Moving on then to the Lego group and what really created the Legoland business. The best date Iga forgot is Danish for only the best is good enough. And that was a slogan, as it were, that was created by the Lego company in the 1940s. And that is something that we live and breathe by every single day. But if it's not the best, then it's certainly not good enough for our guests and for our employees. And then its mission is to inspire and develop the builders of today and tomorrow. So as you know, the Lego bricks that you guys played with as a child, or you have your grandchildren playing with bricks, they're all interlocking with the bricks that you may well have had as a small child, or your grandparents as a child, and they can all be interchanged between families and generations. So our Legoland estate, we currently have 6 Legoland theme parks around the world. The first opened in 1968 in Billund in Denmark. Then we opened our next park in Windsor in the United Kingdom, and there was a big gap of time between 1968 and 1996, but that's because Lego was really perfecting what they wanted to build as a Legoland theme park. One thing to note is that we have an incredibly important next door neighbour to our Windsor theme park, and that is Her Majesty the Queen, who lives about 10 minutes down the road from the theme park itself in her residence of the summer. In 1999, we opened Legoland California. 2002, we opened Legoland in Germany. 2011 is Legoland Florida, and that's my home park until I move up here. And then in 2012, we opened Legoland Malaysia. Later on this year, we'll be opening Legoland Dubai, and in spring of next year, we'll be opening Legoland Japan. You can see some of the images there of our rather large sand pit that we have in Dubai. That's going to become a fantastic Legoland park. And then the Dubai water park will open in later on this year. And in Japan, the first piece of construction that we put in was our observation tower. So a Legoland park then is truly built for kids 2 to 12. That's what we aim for. That's what we concentrate on. And you can see one of our rides there. That's one of our key rides. That is the driving school. And the driving school itself is designed so it's not on a track. It doesn't operate with guidance rails or anything like that. All of the vehicles are operated by remote control if the kids decide that the vehicle needs to stop. And another important thing about the driving school is it was the first ride in North America that had solar power added to it. So our ride in Florida, all of the vehicles have solar panels on the back of those vehicles, and it's supported by solar power throughout the day. So then next, I'm just going to give you a very, very brief overview video of the proposed Legoland New York site. Has some music, and I will kind of talk through what you're going to see on the video. This is the beginning of the park, and just to the right hand side as we fly by, it's our admissions and turnstile area. You're now coming into the beginning of any Legoland theme park, which is this amazing, immense colour that you're seeing built out of Lego bricks. Lego City is the most popular area of a Legoland park, and it's designed with treescape and road markings, street signage, and then that has the driving school, junior driving school and boating school. We have a restaurant on the right hand side, heavily shaded as well. Next up is Heart Lake City. This is a brand new area that we built into Legoland Parks about 2 years ago, and it follows the lives of our teenage friends in the Lego Friends toy line. And it truly is a fantastic area for the young girls to go and enjoy their favourite toy sets. This is Lego Kingdoms with our signature roller coaster, the Dragon. All of our rides are pink knuckle, not white knuckle. We don't have any rides that go upside down. This is Pirate Shores, again another new area for us, but it's what's considered an evergreen toy product for the Lego company. It's a toy line that's been around for a very long time and very, very popular. Next up is the world of Ninjago. We opened this in California and in Billund this year, and it's incredibly popular with our demographic right now. Bricktopia, that's where we encourage children not to follow the instruction manuals that they find in their toy sets, and they are encouraged to build and play only as far as their imaginations will take them. This is the heart of any Legoland park. This is Miniland USA, and it will have over 30 million bricks and about 3,500 residents considered mini-landers, the small people built out of bricks. You can see the area of Manhattan there. And now as we fly out, we see what the park truly is, which is a park within a park. The parking is at the back of the theme park itself, with our admission, our back of house areas and buildings off to the side, and then that dense forest in between the roadway and the theme park itself. And you can see our access route that goes into the theme park and drags those vehicles to the back of the park, bringing them off of the local infrastructure. So that's kind of really what it looks like without the music and without the logo, but again, a park within a park, so it's truly hidden. The reason behind that is when you're driving down the freeway and you've got your kids who are very, very excited, they might not necessarily know where they're going. We want it to be hidden away. We like the fact that our Florida and our California parks are very much hidden away, so only when you're right up close or you're driving into the park do those kids see they are actually coming to Legoland. So, a typical Legoland resort, they are designed as short break destinations, and they typically attract between 1.5 and 2.5 million visitors a year. Industry-leading guest satisfaction scores. Now what that means is that we measure all of our guest satisfaction and complaints and comments in real time. If someone is in a restaurant and they text into us or complete a survey to say that their food is cold or they're not enjoying it, for example, our guest satisfaction team will go and meet them there and then in the restaurant. So, of course, there are social media efforts that they can go out there to TripAdvisor, etc., and complete a review of the park, but we want to know about that challenge that they have right there and then. Highly attractive for repeat visitation, so between 80,000 and 120,000 annual pass holders for each of our parks. A high appeal for tourists, typically with 30% of our visitation. And then intensive reinvestment cycles, so we have a very, very proven financial model that reinvests in our parks every 2 to 3 years, with a large investment going in every 3 to 4 years. This is our demographic. So again, we are a theme park built for children 2 to 12. Each Legoland park is based on the same concept, but the Miniland and certain elements of the park will take on the face of the place. So our Miniland will have a high concentration of of models built around this local area, and again adapted to local culture, sight and taste. That it does include the food opportunities as well. The graph you can see at the bottom, although you might not be able to see the numbers, that just shows our age range of people visiting the park. So it really kind of dips off around 13 to 15 years of age. We are not a theme park built for teenagers. We are a theme park built for children 2 to 12. And then they come along with their adults and their grandparents, etc. Now, will teenagers have fun? Of course they'll have fun, but it is not a theme park built for teenagers. So we have 8 themed areas around the park, as you saw through on the video, over 50 ride shows and attractions, and then more than 10,000 Lego models around the park with a mix of indoor and outdoor attractions. So this is Lego Factory. This is one of the areas where you get to see how we produce an actual Lego brick. And the kids go through and they see the different models and the compression systems that make the bricks, and then they'll see a brick come out of the system at the end of it. Bricktopia, as I mentioned, this is where we encourage children to not necessarily follow by the instructions. What you just saw in that quick picture just there, this is one of our education facilities, and this is incredibly important to us, that children come in and they learn about how the system of Lego play can relate to their education as well. Pirate Shores includes some rides that do involve water as well, so they will engage with other families, for example, on those rides. And then this smaller ride here, truly built for children. This is Knight's Kingdom, and this is the Dragon. This is our indoor-outdoor roller coaster, so it has a portion of it that's built indoors. This ride here is built for children, but only up until the age of 5 or 6. So again, there's attractions that are designed for the very, very young ones, as well as the children built 2 to 12. The World of Ninjago, as I mentioned, is a new world that we created for California and Billund this year, and uses a new ride technology that enables the children to wave their hand over a sensor on the front of the ride vehicle that will push snow and ice and fire towards the screen, the video screen. So it's highly interactive. They wear their 3D glasses to interact with the ride concept as well. Heart Lake City, this is a fantastic new area for us that we built just 2 years ago, and this is a very, very popular toy line for the girls at the moment. And what that means is that they can come into the toy set themselves that they've been playing with for the last couple of years and see it be brought to life in a Legoland theme park. Lego City, this is where children get their opportunity to collect their driver's license. So we don't just put them in a ride vehicle and let them drive off. They watch a video, they go through a presentation about how to learn how to drive, how to buckle their seatbelt in, how to stop at stop signs, and how to turn left and right, and then we put them in the ride vehicle as well. Miniland USA, you saw a part of it, that's Washington DC, and then this is our London skyline. You can tell that that is the skyline of London rather than just a photograph. In the back there's a trash can right there on the little piece of grass. So other people see that photograph and they truly think that is the skyline of London. So the Legoland Hotel, our hotel will open with 250 bedrooms, and it is a highly immersive, highly themed hotel for children to come and stay. And there will be different themes inside that hotel of Ninjago, Lego Friends, Pirates, Kingdoms, and Adventure. It will also bring 250-seater restaurant, which is a buffet-style restaurant. That does include kids' height buffet stations as well, so the children can get their food. The children are incredibly important when they come to a Legoland hotel, so they must check in as well. So we give them documents to sign so that they feel truly engaged in the vacation experience. And then another 100-seat Skyline Lounge, which is a lounge built around the skyline of the local area, all built out of Lego bricks. This is what one of our rooms looks like. So this is a premium themed pirate room. So as you can see, it looks like you're staying on a pirate ship. And that's what the kids love. There's between 8 to 12 Lego models in each of those hotel rooms. The other fun thing is that when the parents go and check into their room and they're unpacking their suitcase, there is a challenge for the children to crack open a safe within that room. They have to answer questions, which all those questions and answers are found within their hotel room. And once they crack open that safe, there is Lego toys and the Lego Club magazine in there to keep them distracted while mum and dad unpack all of their clothes into the room. A resort-style pool filled with floating Lego bricks. So we have oversized Lego brick which does float, and that will float around the pool as well. And of course, a hotel wouldn't be complete without the Lego movie playing 24 hours a day on the kids' TVs if that's what they wanted. Sea Life Aquarium. So we will, in the future, develop the Sea Life Aquarium at the resort. And what a sea life aquarium is it's about interactivity and bringing the Lego models into the tanks as well. So as you can see from that bottom photo, we do have Lego content within the aquarium, and an aquarium will have over 5,000 creatures, including sharks, rays, seahorses, clownfish, and an octopus. And there's pop-up tanks, as you can see from the picture on the left-hand side, where the kids can literally climb inside the tank themselves and experience what it's like to look like from the outside in. So what are we about? What is Merlin Entertainments and Legoland Parks about? Merlin's Magic Wand is our children's charity, but is designed to support disabled and underprivileged children. And we have our Green Wave program, which is all about conservation and recycling. And then the Sea Life Trust works in partnership with our aquariums all around the world to make sure that we are promoting and protecting the world's oceans. Some of the things that we do for our disabled guests is that we have an ADA concierge, and essentially when you're looking to plan your visit to come to one of our parks, you can go online and anyone can download a PDF document and read about visiting the park if you have special needs or requirements. But what this provides is a concierge, and one of our team will call you back within 24 hours with one of our members of our ride operations team and talk through your journey live face-to-face with a person over the phone. So it's not just a document that you have to read to talk about your visit to the park, it's someone who will talk through that experience with you as well. So Merlin's Magic Wand, as I mentioned, provides seriously ill, disadvantaged and disabled children and their families a fun-filled day to come and visit one of our parks. If they can't come to one of our parks, we will take the magic to them. The photo in the bottom is one of our Merlin Magic Spaces that we created in California, and that enables us to go in, decorate somewhere and theme it out like a small part of a Legoland park to make sure that the children who can't necessarily come to our attractions can get some fun as well. These are some of the projects that we've worked on very, very recently. We opened 3 child therapy rooms in the Howard Phillips Center in Orlando, which is for underprivileged and abused children. And it was phenomenal to go there and to launch that space and to see the smiles on the kids' faces for an area that we only really worked on for 2 months. And that was a small part of what we do, but it made a huge impact onto those children's lives. That's kind of what it looked like. That's some of the concept drawings. And then this is it in real life. So those therapy rooms are in active use at the moment. And the children go in there and they have obviously very sad and disadvantaged stories to talk about with their counsellors. But by putting them in that room, it enables them to open up a little bit more. Environmentally conscious, these are some of the key facts that we have for our Legoland parks. How much we recycle, the different products that we recycle. And then as I mentioned earlier, we were the first theme park in North America to operate with solar panels on our rides. So the solar panels in the back of that ride there, they generate solar energy for the grid system, and that supports our attractions that we have at the park. And then these are our ride vehicles that have solar panels on them as well. So that means in reality that it adds about 2 hours of energy to those ride vehicles per day. Some of the things that we recycle, we do recycle traffic cones. We also do recycle Lego brick. So when the Lego brick gets too worn out and too used, then we will recycle that as well. Starting from scratch, everything we do with our culinary expertise is to make sure that we use food from locally sourced markets. There's no point trucking in fruits and vegetables from miles around if we can use it from the local area. What that means in Florida is that we have a small vegetable garden at the back of the hotel where we'll take the children out and we'll educate them into how we grow vegetables and how that goes into the food chain. Now, of course, that small vegetable garden is not going to supply food for the whole hotel, but it gives the children an understanding of how we grow vegetables and how we get it from the ground to the table. So some of our education programs, we operate field trips for education facilities to come into the resort. We have the first Lego League, which enables the Lego company to operate competitions at the park. And then we operate our community events within the park, which you'll see in just a few slides' time. These are some of our educational programs which are written in line with the STEM program. And one of my favourite classes is our Tall Towers class. And essentially we'll bring the kids in, maybe 20 to 30 at a time, and we'll allow them to build a tower of their own design, of their own construction. But we've built that tower on what's called an earthquake table. Then we push the button, the earthquake table moves, the tower falls to the ground. The kids' faces just look at us like, what are we doing? And then we teach them about the art of construction and how do you build a tower with solid construction, so that when we place it on the earthquake table, we push the button, their building does not fall down. So they think they're playing with Lego bricks, but they're actually learning the art of solid construction in the form of play. And then these are some of the other classes that we have. This is Dr. Heartbeat, and the children learn how to program a Lego Mindstorms robot. And then once they've programmed it and they've built the robot together, they'll put that robot out on one of the tables, and essentially that robot moves blue and red platelet balls around the body system to be in the correct places to make sure that the blood moves and flows around the body system itself. This is one of our education classrooms in the bottom. As you can see, the laptop's all the way around. The children work in pairs to program the laptop and then program the Mindstorms robot, and then they get to see it in action afterwards. These are some of our community fun days. So our Florida and our Carlsbad theme parks are sometimes closed during the week on off-peak times, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And what we've done in Carlsbad, for example, is we've handed that park over to the local school district. They've been able to sell tickets for that attraction or for the theme park for the day. We just operate it. And in 1 year, they raised over $100,000 for the Carlsbad School District just on 1 day of operating that theme park. So, Legoland in Goshen, the proposed site, will be 523 total acres. As you can see, that is the 17 marked up on the top of the map. It is mentioned there as the Grand Army of the Republic Highway, but that is the 17. The back of house building is right at the top there, with the main park, the hotel, and the future sea life attraction space marked with that little blue circle, and then parking towards the back. It will be developed on 153 acres in total, and it will be 2,000 feet to the nearest house in Arcadia Hills from the boundary line. There will be 1,000 feet of green space to the parking lot, which will remain a wooded area. Again, it brings us back to a park within a park. We want our guests to feel like they're hidden away within the trees and that they're not necessarily seeing the theme park as they're driving up. Be an average daily attendance of 10,000 visitors with a peak visitation of 20,000 per day. Obviously, this park is very, very different to our 2 theme parks in North America, but very, very similar to our European parks because they all operate on a seasonal model as well. There'll be 5,000 parking spaces with average daily cars of around 3,500. Opening hours 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the high season, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the shoulder seasons. We are a theme park truly built for children, the children who do not need to be out late at night. That's why our closing time is 8 p.m. So the proposed Legoland New York site then will have a possible opening of 2019. It'll be a $500 million investment between initial development and the first 5 years of operations. It'll be a 250-bedroom themed hotel opening on opening day, with an opening year attendance in line with our other Legoland parks of between 1.5 and 2.5 million visitors. And we like to split out our demographics as a third, and a third. So a third tourists, a third day trip, and a third local residents. And as I've already mentioned, a very, very strong educational school program. We have an on-site education manager who works with the local school communities to make sure that our classes and our programs are staying up to date constantly. So jobs, the program will bring 800 construction jobs. There will be 500 full-time roles which will operate full year round, including our technical trades in our maintenance team, management positions, retail, food and beverage, ride operations, public safety and administrative roles as well. There will be 300 part-time roles, and those roles will be for our very, very peak times, as well as our 500 seasonal roles as well. There we go. So some of our economic benefits, and again we can go over these after the presentation in a little bit more detail if you need. We would hire 500 full-time employees, with 470 of these positions having starting salaries of $30,000 or higher. 260 positions will have salaries starting at $50,000, going up to $200,000 per year. And our initial investment prior to opening day will be $350 million by year, and then by year 5, that will be expected to reach $500 million with the inclusion of the Sea Life Aquarium. And a pilot agreement is absolutely essential as an incentive for Merlin Entertainments to make sure that we can make this investment into this local area. So the proposed Legoland New York site currently generates $91,000 in annual real property taxes right now. That's it as it is as a green space right now. So Legoland New York would make guaranteed pilot payments of $1.4 million annually, with $1 million going to the Goshen Central School District, $210,000 plus more, which I'll explain in just a moment, going to the town of Goshen, and $168,000 going to Orange County. Over the duration of the pilot agreement, payments would increase by 1.5% per year. And over the course of 30 years, Legoland New York will pay $52 million in pilot payments alone, of which $38 million of that will go to the Goshen Central School District. So including annual taxes, the total taxes, fees, pilot payments, host community fees, it will generate over $421 million over the 30-year period. So $52 million in pilot payments, $39 million in host community fees based on 2 million visitors a year. And what that really means is that up to 2 million visitors a year, we will pay the town of Goshen 65 cents per attendee and then 20 cents per attendee after that, with no cap on payments. So the more successful the park is, the more money goes to the town of Goshen. It will generate $300 million in sales tax and then $30 million in hotel tax. If needed, Legoland New York would pay for the use of police services required for additional operations. So we've already met with the fire department and the police department to talk about what that may well look like. And then Legoland New York's employees will generate a substantial amount of economic benefits throughout the region. Again, people who are going to need housing, cars, shopping, groceries, that kind of thing, they're going to be in the local area. And then Legoland New York will hire local construction labour as well. So our mutual objectives, everything that we are concerned about is what the community is concerned about as well. So traffic, of course, traffic is hugely important to us. If our guests cannot get into the theme park appropriately and on time, they're not going to be very happy, they're not going to want to return, they're not going to want to enjoy themselves at the park for the day. Noise, again, it's a concern. We want to be a very good neighbour in this local community, as we already are in Florida and in California. So we will absolutely design this park to mitigate the noise coming out from the theme park. But again, it's a theme park built for children 2 to 12 with no roller coasters that go upside down. And then public opinion. So this is a project that's going to be going on for a long time. You know, Carlsbad opened in '99. We want our parks to be around forever. And that means that we need to make sure that our local community enjoys what we do, thinks highly of how we conduct ourselves, and that we are transparent in everything we do, hence why we're here today. This is Carlsbad today, and you can see the parking facility at the front right there, and then the main driveway comes in along the front and comes up the side, and the hotel operations are just on the right hand side. Again, this is Legoland, California. This is what it looks like from the road system around the park. So again, very, very hidden with treescape. People can't necessarily see Legoland. Where it says Legoland there, that's just put on there for the purposes of the picture. That is not a sign. And then that is the view of the park from one of the local residences as well. This is Legoland, Florida. So Legoland, Florida sits amongst a chain of lakes, and this is what it looks like from its main entranceway. This is where guests will drive into the park and take a left, just at this very small Legoland sign on the left-hand side. This is a view of the parking lot and how it looks from the outside area. And again, our parking facility that we have in Florida. This is our traffic plan, and what I'll do is I'll actually ask Phil to come up and speak on that, and he will talk through all of the traffic movements and the vehicle flow.
Thank you. Again, Philip Greeley, Macer Consulting. This plan represents our preliminary plan to identify areas of improvements needed to accommodate the types of traffic flow that are anticipated with the park. As we indicated previously, we're in the process now, we're in the seeker process, actually preparing the traffic studies. That scope of what's being looked at has expanded somewhat. This was the immediate area that we're talking about in terms of, this is exit 124, exit 125 eastbound, and this is exit 125 westbound. This is South Street, Harriman Drive, the BOCES complex. So just off the screen on your right-hand side is the Glen Arden facility, and then beyond that is where our access into the property, as Phil indicated. Once you get to our property, we have a long entry roadway over about 3,000 feet that brings traffic to the back side of the park, where the parking lot is located on the, what would be the south side of the park. So that becomes important in terms of not only getting people off the highway system into the park, but also being able to efficiently get them into their parking areas and processed in the parking areas before they enter the park. Just real briefly, again, these are preliminary. These were kind of a first cut of what we need to do in terms of lane widenings, road widenings, traffic signal upgrades, in order to get traffic moving into the park and also accommodate the traffic that's on the roadway today. So in terms of the traffic studies that are underway now, you have to look at where do you anticipate the bulk of your traffic coming from. So initial information from Merlin, we expect over 70% of our traffic to arrive to and from the east, okay, coming from the south and the southeast on Route 17. So what that means is a lot of that traffic will have to get off the highway, work their way to the opposite side of the highway and into the park. So the improvements that we're looking at here include widening of ramps to get double lanes. Again, these improvements focus mainly on the intersections. In terms of Route 17, we've already started discussions with New York State DOT, which we have to go through a permit process with them. So there's anticipated modifications of deceleration lanes, acceleration lanes on Route 17. You don't see that on this diagram because when this was prepared, we weren't into that sequence yet. In terms of exit 125 eastbound, you see here what's called a roundabout as a possible improvement to move traffic through that area. The nexus of that was when New York State DOT was starting their planning exercises of looking at the conversion to 86, from 17 to I-86, they had looked at a concept in that vicinity of a roundabout. So we took that concept and continued with it. In terms of near BOCES, we're looking at widening Harriman Drive so that there would be 2 lanes dedicated heading towards the project. So when traffic flow is coming into the project, which the peak times for that generally occur between 10 and 12. We can have over 1,200 vehicles an hour in those time periods coming towards the park. So, again, the heavy direction will be coming from the east on 17. Our plan is to bring them through exit 124 and widen that, create a right turn lane that would be continuous, bring traffic over to South Street, across the South Street Bridge to Harriman Drive. There'd be some intersection widening there to get a dual left turn, and then carry the traffic past BOCES, through the roundabout, and towards the site. Not only traffic signal upgrades, but coordinating those signals so that they would be up to the latest technology in terms of smart signal technology. These are all DOT requirements going forward. As you don't see on this plan, but as you go past Glen Arden, we anticipate that there would be a traffic signal at Glen Arden's access point to allow traffic to flow in and out of there. And then the widening would continue down to the overall site plan. In terms of exit 125 eastbound, you don't see anything on this diagram here. At a minimum, we're figuring signalization of that. One of the things that we've been asked to look at in the study is with and without that interchange, because there was some talk, again, going back to the I-86 conversion, that may have to be closed. So we've been asked to analyze it both ways. So right now we're not showing anything specific there because it's still being evaluated. Just off this map, you'll see here the Heritage Trail crosses South Street, so we're going to be looking at some upgrades there also. The traffic study has been expanded beyond this immediate area, so the improvements that are shown on this plan range somewhere between $8 to $10 million by the time you put new traffic signals in, widenings, retaining walls, and we're anticipating, and some of the mainline work that's not on here, for example, extending the acceleration lane on Route 17 heading eastbound. As you go up the hill, there's some work that has to be done there. As you know, this area is 3 lanes each per direction, and then it heading eastbound, it necks down right about where the roundabout is. So we're in the process of evaluating that in detail. That's one of the requirements of DOT to look at that. So we're expecting that we'll be extending that existing acceleration lane. In terms of other items, we've been asked to look at other intersections. For example, in the village of Chester, they've asked us to look at some intersections there as you head on 17M. In terms of times of day, again, we have kind of the summer season and then we have the off season. One of the things here in terms of, other than the March, April to October timeframe, whatever improvements we make here will be here. They're going to be able to be used year round, November, December, shopping times, etc. But we have to design it to handle our loading, including summer loadings. We're in the process of still collecting summer data. We have historical data from New York State DOT in terms of patterns and how traffic volumes change. So we're still collecting that information as we speak right now. There were some additional intersections that have been asked for by the town as part of the seeker process, so that data is being collected and will be analyzed. One of the other things we're looking at in this location is the possibility of bus service, and even in terms of shuttle bus service for employees. And we have the hotel on site, but it's anticipated that people will use hotels in the surrounding area. We have a hotel in Chester, we have the hotels in Wallkill, so there's opportunities there. In terms of more regional bus, for a facility like this in proximity to the metropolitan area, are exploring possibilities of actually having bus service from Manhattan, let's say, or some of the other Lego properties where you can kind of tie it in where, okay, this is where you get the bus directly to Legoland. And we're finding that more and more of the millennials, when they travel with their children, they're not opposed to getting on a bus or mass transit. So those are all things that are being looked at in part of our study. There's been other items in terms of the scope, as I said, other intersections. We've been asked to look at a potential direct connection from Route 17. It's part of what our analysis has to take into account. And again, that scope is still evolving at this time. So we don't have a final scope, but we're getting everything that we know about, getting all that information so that we can finalize our study and finalize our plans for improvements. So, thank you.
Thank you. Just to reiterate as well what I mentioned and then what Phil's talked through with the traffic plans. Our guests driving to the park from wherever they may well have driven from with children in the back anticipating a fun day out, it's not in our best interest at all to have those guests waiting in traffic to get into a theme park. For example, in our California and our Florida parks, we charge for parking upon entry. And what that does is, as people come into the park, they pay for their parking and then they go and park. For the New York project, we've already turned that around and we will charge for parking upon exit. And what that means is that the vehicles will come straight off of this infrastructure system directly into the park. They will be guided by our attendants, and they will park in a system, in a fashion that the guests walk into the park amongst stationary vehicles rather than vehicles that are moving. And we will charge for parking as people leave the park. Now that puts pressures on us as an operator rather than the infrastructure system of having people waiting out on the roads in the early morning time. So we can either do that by providing those tickets in advance, selling them in retail stores, or having automated machines located around the theme park that again puts the pressures on us as an operator to educate our guests that you pay for parking like it when you leave the airport upon exit. So that's something new that we've changed. It works very, very well in our European theme parks. It's not something we've developed into our US parks yet, but the New York site will have that. So our required assistance then, what do we need from the local community and the local, the local businesses, etc. So from the town of Goshen, we obviously need our planning and zoning approval. Village of Goshen and Orange County, water and sewer, and as you know, it was announced last night that we have been successful in securing our water and sewage supplies from the village of Goshen. And in Orange County, off-site roads and infrastructure, again, as Phil mentioned, we are working with DOT to make sure that anything we plan is completely in line with their plans and their technologies that they're using. We've already spoken to the local emergency services to make sure that they are happy with our egress into the park for emergency vehicles. And in the state of New York, project incentives required to green light the Legoland project, for example, the pilot agreement. So what's next? Our community involvement. We will open a community welcome centre in Goshen. We're working on that exact location and that exact opening time at the moment, but that will be within the village itself, and that will create an opportunity for people to come in, talk with me and some of the team, learn about the project, whether they're opposed to the project or they're for the project, just to come in and answer those questions. There has been a lot of presentations. We had the open house. But some people don't necessarily want to come to those events. They want to come in, they'll have a coffee and some chocolate with me. I do like chocolate, so there'll be plenty of chocolate in the Welcome Centre. And it'll be an opportunity, there'll be plenty of Lego bricks for the kids to play with. And then mum, dad, grandparents, whoever it may well be, or local business owners can come and ask me and the team about some of the questions that they have about the proposed site. Again, we're being very, very transparent. We have had a number of events, very, very public events, including the open house, where we saw a couple of thousand people. And we're communicating with people such as yourselves to make sure that if there are any questions, we're answering that as transparently as possible. We are obviously going through the secret process at the moment. That will hopefully complete in the beginning of next year, and that is a very, very well known and documented process to make sure that everything is looked at and everything is thoroughly reviewed to make sure that this project comes to a success. Now, we've also had many, many questions that have been asked of us when we've had these public meetings, and sometimes there's some fantastic questions that come up, and we've gone ahead and we've made already changes to our plans so we can incorporate some of those questions. And in our communication, we obviously have our Legoland.com website, and then the Facebook.com for Legoland Parks, which has up-to-date information about the project itself and what's going on, and then where people can sign up and get further information. So what's in it for our stakeholders? The effect of a Legoland park then. So just showing you some statistics on our Carlsbad and Winter Haven theme parks. So Carlsbad facts, Legoland California Resort ranks in third position of top employees for the local area. And then it's created 13% of entertainment and hospitality employment growth from 2012 to 2014. Now these are, in Carlsbad, for example, they would normally be roles that would be lost to Los Angeles, for example. But we've grown that hospitality and entertainment environment by 13%. Tax, property tax paid to the County of San Diego, just over $2 million. Hotel transient tax, or hotel bed tax as it's sometimes known as, is just over $2 million paid to the city of Carlsbad. And then sales tax paid to the state of California, just over $5 million. Usage tax for the park itself, just short of 0.2, and then income tax, just over $3 million paid to the state of California. Legoland Florida then has created over 1,600 jobs and $136 million of economic activity per year during the first 5 years of operations. Now, until yesterday, I have lived in Florida for the last 4 years of my life, and I've seen the local area grow, and I've seen restaurants grow and businesses grow, and I've seen other hotels pop up. So it's a fantastic phenomenon when these parks come into the local area to really push that local environment. And then you can see some of the salaries and the direct effect of those salaries and the multiplier effects of our businesses that we bring to the local area. Hello. Okay.
I think that was the last
That, I
slide.
believe that was
Yeah.
the last slide.
Yeah.
But just because I didn't necessarily cover it in the beginning, as I mentioned, I've lived in Florida now for 4 years, and I've considered that my home. I'm very, very excited to be living in Goshen, and particularly excited to get my keys yesterday for my apartment. Have no furniture in it at the moment, so I look forward to camping in my living room and on a sleeping bag. But I'm looking forward to moving to the local area. Prior to Florida, I was in Dallas-Fort Worth in Texas for a year, and then prior to that, I was in Hollywood, California for 2 years, and then obviously before that, I came from the United Kingdom. So I've been with Merlin Entertainments Group for 15 years. I absolutely love what I do. I've been very, very fortunate to move around, see what our business does with the local community and how it settles into that local community. My house in Florida is 11 minutes away from a theme park. Now, I wouldn't have invested my own personal money in a house so close to a theme park if I didn't think it was a smart idea. So I'm very much looking forward to having a permanent space here in New York, and moving my dog up here. He's looking forward to the snow. But this whole area has very much welcomed me. It's welcomed the project team that we have, and we're looking forward to getting the Community Welcome Centre open, answering some questions, and then going through and completing the secret process.
Todd, is in this last month, 2 months, where we've been talking about traffic coming eastbound from 17.
Yes.
There's been 124, 125. Where do you see this exit going? Because that seems to be maybe the great traffic issue
Yes.
that we all deal with on
Understood.
17.
So in terms of the DOT's role here, they're going to be issuing permits. They've provided us information relative to what they had evaluated. In terms of the 125 westbound exit, there was consideration of that being closed. So we have to analyze it with and without. So with it in place, the infrastructure that you see today, that would be upgraded where it is today. The focus for our traffic would be to take traffic on and off of exit 124 westbound, because that can handle the right turns, and then we can bring them back over to the South Street Bridge, across the Harriman, and towards the site. In terms of 125, the eastbound entrance and exit, that's where we're showing the roundabout improvement. So it's anticipated that that would stay in place. That was not going to be eliminated or modified other than the roundabout as part of the DOT's look. So we're working with that basically in place. It may shift a little bit in terms of the acceleration lane that I talked about and the position of the roundabout, but 125 eastbound would stay pretty much as is with upgrades.
I'm looking at 124 westbound at this point.
Yes, that would be where our traffic would be focused, and that's where we would bring our traffic through. But again, the 125 westbound, we've been asked already in the scope to study it with and without that in place. If it was closed off, how would that affect additional volume at 124, for example?
You've been asked by
By the town, and as part of this process, we're not only having DOT review this, but in seeker, the town of Goshen has hired its own traffic consultants, and they provided us with a list of items that needed to be addressed. When they looked at the historical view that DOT had taken, they said, okay, that was something DOT was looking at. We want you to evaluate it, so that we have to include that in our secret documents.
So, Phil, you had said 70% of the traffic you anticipate coming from the east.
Yes.
East from the south.
Yes.
And I can see what you're doing in terms of expanding. I live in the town of Goshen.
Yes.
It's coming off of Exit 124 to get them into
Yes.
the road. Where are they going back east?
Okay, when they get back east, would be right at the 125 eastbound. So if you're at, Glen Arden, or if you're at Bosse's,
Right.
the interchange that's there, you have the off and on ramp, that's called 125.
Okay.
Okay? Where that roundabout was shown,
Mhm.
that's that interchange. So the traffic would come out of Harriman Drive. They wouldn't have to go back, that bulk of that
That's what I
70%
thought.
plus or more, would not have to go back over South Street. They would get right onto 17 in that vicinity. So it would
Okay.
be a right turn, getting onto 17, heading eastbound.
Okay.
And that's where I was talking about, we're looking at having to extend the acceleration lane and modify that as you go up the grade heading east to handle that additional volume getting back on.
And I don't know if it's possible, but I mean, are you aware that the casino is going to be
Mhm.
Is all of that playing into this? Because, I
Yeah.
mean, we've got our traffic now, the
Yes.
traffic studies are going on now, then you got that added
Yes.
aspect. Then you've got Amy's Kitchen.
Correct.
That's coming in, it's going to bring a lot of heavy trucks in as well, too, so. I don't
One
know.
of the things that in terms of the seeker process in the DIS, we've been asked to evaluate what they call background projects. So you
Yep.
have your normal growth, but we have the Montreal Casino, we have Amy's Kitchen, and then there's a list of at least a half a dozen other, meaningful sized projects that we have to include in the background.
Okay.
So in the process, we have to look not only existing, we have to look at background and then our traffic on top of that. Now, in terms of one of the things relative to our arrival pattern is good in terms of traffic coming in, let's say in the morning,
Right.
between 10 and 12. That's in the westbound direction, one of the lower time periods, okay?
Yeah.
So that's a positive from us getting people in. In terms of leaving, we have to deal with Sunday, Sunday is Sunday.
You already know
But,
Sundays.
but the bottom line is we have to include all that background traffic.
Okay.
And then we're looking at patterns in terms of arrivals and departures. So in the afternoon, when the bulk of our traffic, let's say on a weekday, let's say on a Friday, if the traffic's heading back, well, we still have commuter traffic and other traffic. The heavy direction would be westbound at that time in the later afternoon. So we have the variations from DOT. We've collected our own information to make sure it's current and to see how those patterns are and how we can fit in and work with but the initial feeling is that the directionality and the timing of our arrivals and departure work well. The issue we have, again, is Sunday, Route 17 is Route 17 on a Sunday, heading eastbound, so.
We've also will be designing and operating the park to support the infrastructure going back out onto the road. So
Correct.
yes, everyone will be turning right to go off of the roundabout, but at the same time we also want to encourage people to go and use local restaurants, local bars in their local areas. So we've done it with Winter Haven, we've done it with Carlsbad as well, in essentially what we term inside our heads as a turn left campaign, where obviously everyone's going to enjoy themselves in the park, but we want to make sure that people go out into the local community and go and enjoy some of those restaurants and bars, or stay in the other hotels as well. So it's not all going to be a mass exodus of people leaving the park at the same time. People with very young children, they won't necessarily stay all day. So especially our annual pass holders, for example, they'll come in 11 or 12 o'clock in the day, and then they'll be leaving by 3 or 4 p.m. So there is that very, very strong mix of people who will leave the park at different times. So it does support that flow of cars exiting the theme park.
The 8 to 10 million that you're looking at cost-wise improvements, who's footing the bill for that?
Well, right now, we're in a process with DOT, it's a permit process. So we've just done the preliminary cost estimates. We're not even into design yet, so, I mean, those were just to be able to give budget numbers so that we know. But
Is that the
at
state, is
point,
that the county?
well, there's certain areas I think where funding from the county has been talked about. But again, these are only initial numbers, so we don't even have we don't have designs yet. If we get into more significant things on the main line of 17, then we would be looking for the state to be part of it. Because it's not, as you pointed out, it's not just this project.
Right.
And traffic on a Sunday is going to be the same on a Sunday whether we're here or not in terms of, so I think it's got to be some sort of a partnership in terms of the corridor. The localized intersection improvements, I think that would be more of ours and working with the county relative to Harriman Drive. So I think there's still things that have to be, fine-tuned relative to that. But again, these are preliminary numbers that we're coming up with.
Sunday's a Sunday. I was coming back from the east to my house. I get off on exit 124, and traffic was headed into the city. It started backing up at Mawa, and it was still backed up by the time I got to
On-
124.
on the thruway, yeah.
I just thank God I was going the other way.
You just mentioned that maybe possibility of a dedicated exit. Is that like just a dream, or is that a real possibility?
Well, at this point, I would say it's a little bit of a dream, but we've been asked to study it, to look at the potential in terms of physically being able to do it.
Right.
And then, if it's physically able to be done, then there's a cost associated with that, but then there's also different levels of approvals, because 17, even before conversion to 86, has federal funding involved, and one of the complications is you can't have a direct ramp to one specific private entity. So it has to be more of the area, and it would serve, in this case, let's say, would serve Bosse's, Glen Arden, it would serve not only this property, but again, we've been asked to study it, we are compiling information in terms of clearances and land availability, et cetera. So
Could you
at this
invest-
time, I would say it's a thought and it's a process we have to look at, but I would never say never to anything.
They came up with Woodbury Common.
Yeah.
And ran into that
Absolutely.
as well. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I
Do you
think
have
that, finally, the 131 interchange is supposedly funded, and we'll see that go ahead now, so.
People always fear leaving a place. You talked about backing them up and having them pay. Bethel Woods is a great example.
Yes.
Everyone loves to go to Bethel Woods because
Yes.
everybody arrives slowly.
Right. But when you
They all
leave,
leave at the
yeah,
same
it
time.
can be
And You're not
painful.
Bethel Woods, you won't be leaving at the end of
Right.
a concert. What are your patterns? Like what percentage, I know you said they come in all day long, what percentage leave between 5 and 6, 6 and 8? You must have real numbers on that from your other parks.
Yeah, and it varies day by day, like Friday versus a Saturday versus a Sunday. I think, and again, I don't have the information with, but from what I remember, on a Sunday, it is a little bit more spread out. You have people leaving earlier in the day, people that may be, just making a day trip. But you also have people that end up staying over, we saw on Sundays at some of the other parks. Now, again, this is data that was collected in Carlsbad, and you can see the patterns. In terms of the other days, on Friday, it seems to be spread out. And Saturday, the same thing. It starts probably around 3 o'clock, and then it continues right through till 9 o'clock in the evening.
The numbers as well for Florida can sometimes be a little bit skewed, especially in the summer, because as you know, it rains every single afternoon in Florida, and so people will start to leave the park a little bit differently. But for the exact stats, we can go back and we can get those stats for Carlsbad and Winter Haven and see what those exact flow exit
Because it
times
seems for the entrance, you've got a lot of place to store cars as they're
Correct.
coming in.
Absolutely.
But for exit, they're all backing up into your parking lot.
And people want to get out of there.
Yeah.
You're done for the
I'm
day
just
with
wondering-
kids, you want to get out.
Absolutely, but again, it comes back to that puts the pressure on us,
Right.
because when people have enjoyed a fantastic day at the park, well, what are they going to do? They're going to go home and they're going to go onto TripAdvisor. So it puts the pressure onto us to make sure that our guests leave the park as quickly as possible, or go to a local restaurant, or stay and dine with us, or stay and dine in the hotel, and so they're not backed up into traffic. And as you can imagine, when you've got children who are very, very tired in the car, they've been at Legoland all day, or they're still excited, we don't want any parent to have to sit in that car for a minute longer than they really should have.
Are the restaurants going to be open longer than the park?
Yes, they are. So the restaurants stay open a little while longer than the park, so it creates the attractions close, and it's a soft close. So if it says 6 p.m, that means the queue line closes at 6 p.m, and if it's got 30 minutes, it will run through. And generally, the restaurants stay open for 30 to 60 minutes after the park has closed, but it's phased from the back of the park to the front. We don't need restaurants open in the back of the park for the rest of the evening. But the
How many
hotel,
restaurants are there, Phil?
I'll have to get an exact number for you.
Because you have one hotel at all.
Yes, one hotel, but within that hotel there are 2 restaurants. For example, in the Florida park we have 10 to 12 restaurants, but we can get an exact number for you at the restaurants for the New York park.
If I may follow up on what Ken was saying about traffic, I'm sorry. You're talking about a dedicated exit. Where would you put that exit, if I may?
It would be somewhere east of the existing 125 area. So, exact location, because we have to land in the area of property that we have control on Harriman Drive, and we would have to tie into Harriman Drive or a relocated Harriman Drive. So, exactly where it would be in that vicinity, we have to look at grades, we have to look at the elevation to get over the main line, but it would have to land in an area that's under our control. So it would be somewhere, in terms of the landing area, would be east of Glen Arden, of course, where our property starts, somewhere along our property frontage. And then tying back to the other side, we would probably have a ramp that would come off the main line and then loop up over. So it would be a flyover type of design. Because of the proximity of 17M, you don't have a lot of options. 17M relative to the main line. If you had different separation, you may look at some other type of an interchange, but that's the direction
I
we're
don't want to bog
looking
this
at.
down,
Yeah.
but basically, those exits ain't cheap. How much do you think an exit like that would cost?
Oh, if you're just talking about a directional flyover, you could be talking $15-20 million just for that alone easily. Depending on
Yeah.
take touchdown points and takeoffs and.
The reason I brought that up is because I was talking to the local sheriff. He said, look, if New York State wants to promote economic development, put its money where its mouth is, he said they should build a flyover over 17, like, somewhere to the east. That's just what he was telling me.
Yes.
That's why I brought that
Do you
up.
have a preference at this point for of the alternatives that you're going to be looking at for traffic?
A preference in terms of which
What would you
improvement?
rather do if you were given the, we said, go ahead, do it?
If we were able to get approvals and everything, and we funding and tie it in, yeah, direct ramp is always better to come into any project. I mean, you look at Palisade Center down in Rockland County, that actually is a ramp that comes off. Part of the ring road for Palisade Center is actually a town road, so the ramp system comes off and connects to town roads. It serves the mall, but it serves other areas. But that's. The type of ideal situation, but again, we have to deal with the realities of approvals, and so in looking at the infrastructure in terms of bringing people in off of 124, there's significant, widenings and ramps, retaining walls, signal upgrades, and if you could have a direct ramp connection, then you avoid some of those, or the scale of them would be cut back. You still have to bring other traffic through those intersections, so there would be some upgrades. But again, we're in the process right now of, we started with the infrastructure that's there. We came up with a preliminary access plan. We identified potential costs just for that. And now that we're in the seeker process, we have to evaluate these alternatives.
So you're in the environmental process. We'll say that passes all hurdles. When would this be decided? How far after that, or would it be beforehand?
It would be decided in the seeker process.
In the process, okay.
Yeah, it would be.
Do you think, having dealt with casinos and stuff, it seems, so you had said that the sequel process, you think early next year. Do you think you're being optimistic, given water, sewer, transportation? These can generally run. We're in almost August, probably close to a year oftentimes for a sequel.
Well, process-wise, it's up to us to submit documents. The review of those documents, we don't have control over. That's,
Right.
I think,
So
the bottom
that's
line.
what takes the time.
Right, but
Yeah.
is that in your timetable, both in terms of cost and opening and everything else that goes with it, that the secret could be longer than maybe initially anticipated?
There's obviously some space in the exact process. And Dominic, do you want to talk a bit more on that?
No, I think Phil touched on it. It's up to us to submit all our evaluations that we're working on, and then it'll be under the jurisdiction of the town and all the other agencies to review. So it's kind of hard to say, but it's the goal that we're working towards.
And timeline, what you're looking at,
Correct.
to when you think you'd be able to file everything?
What do you mean? In terms
Paperwork that you'd have to, as you're moving forward, paperwork in terms of filing everything that you would need to?
Correct. Would be this fall.
I was talking about water, too. This is more a question for the village at this point, since they've agreed to give you. How many gallons are you asking them for, or is that a number still to be determined?
Well, it is still to be determined, but what we did was we looked at the Legoland Windsor facility, the one based in England,
Right.
because that is also a seasonal facility and it would have similar types of attractions as here. It's the final design isn't done yet, so actual numbers aren't completed. But using the Legoland Windsor numbers, we were able to roughly calculate how much the demand would be. On a peak day, the demand for water would be about 236,000 gallons. And bear in mind that this is not year-round usage, and that's not everyday usage. That's on the hottest day, on the busiest day during the summer months. But overall, the anticipated amount of water that's supposed to be used, at least in Legoland Windsor, is about 64 million gallons a year. But we don't have a specific number for this particular project yet because it's still in design.
And are you going to work with them as they try to find that much water? Or is that up to them, up to the village?
So it's up to the village, because the village has to be ultimately satisfied with its new sources of water.
Right.
They have additional property located in the town of Wallkill, and they're currently undergoing investigations on that property for drilling new sources of water.
Does the number from Windsor include an aquarium as well?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Does, okay, and that's not yet in your plan here, eventually that would come in.
Well, it is in the sense that we're seeking approval for that now.
Right.
So what we've been referring to as phases is actually construction phasing. So we're seeking approval for the entire project now.
But this 236,000 peak would anticipate that, yes, there is an aquarium there. It's not
Correct.
like, by the way, there's more later.
Correct. And just to stress, those are
Right.
Windsor numbers,
Right.
so we have to develop the numbers here,
Right.
but it will be in our environmental
How
studies.
long before we have those final water numbers, do you think?
When we submit our studies in the fall.
And who's going to be doing the village will now be doing the testing to make sure there is that much water available?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, they did some initial preliminary studies, right, Don?
I believe they've already drilled additional wells,
Right.
and they've had preliminary results that have come back very positive. But those have to go through additional testing.
Because again, to your point of you don't want people backed up in traffic, you also don't want them going dry.
Of course.
So you're going to, do you have to somehow pass on the assurance that there is that much water available?
Well, the village has asked us to do that in the
Right.
sense that, and it's all part of the same seeker evaluation. So one of the things that we wanted to be very holistic about here is that we're looking at all the different aspects of the project, and it's all being included and evaluated as part of one review. So rather than the village of Goshen just looking at this from water and sewer and making its own seeker determination, and which they could, and that's one legitimate way to go. But what they're doing is they're deferring to the town of Goshen and looking at the entire project holistically, of which water and sewer is one part. But their ultimate decision will be based on the entire record that's brought out for the overall project.
We talked about water. Do you have figures on sewer?
Yeah, the sewer figure is actually about half in terms of the amount of effluent that's created by the project.
We actually have a press release we'll leave with you
Perfect.
that details the Goshen.
A sewer press release,
Well,
No, that's.
among our favorites.
is that a PR joke?
Well, for you.
But as long as we're talking about water and sewer.
Oh, sorry,
From what I
Jim.
know of the town, I think they only have 4 subdivisions that are on some kind of public water. So I don't think it's an understatement to say the town is in no position wherever to provide you with water. So, and I don't want to, go beyond the pale here, but I think if the village doesn't come through with the water, what the hell are you guys gonna do?
I agree, because I'm on a well. I live in the town.
Right, no, understood. To answer your question, it's possible that the project will be served by other municipalities for water, but there will be increased infrastructure costs to actually bring it to the project site.
So it would up the cost.
Correct. And I believe that the seeker review that we're ongoing will ask us to evaluate those costs and those benefits as well. So that will be part of our review.
So last time I was speaking with Barry and with Jim, we didn't have the water piece to announce with the Village of Goshen, but since last night, this is a sizable event that we thought it'd be appropriate to come in today and talk about it, so.
Another reason to explore this, and you guys are well aware of this, Amy's, the way it looks like they're gonna go with them, they're gonna bring it in from the city of Middletown.
Right.
So is there a possibility you might go to Middletown, but I'm extrapolating, that would dramatically increase the cost, I think.
Correct. At least the upfront cost.
Have you had conversations with Middletown?
I have not, no.
You mentioned TripAdvisor. Go ahead.
Were you involved with this project when it was looking in Haverstraw?
No, I was not. No, but I'm aware of little bits of the project, but I was not completely on board at that time.
You mentioned TripAdvisor.
Yes.
I looked at your reviews, and except for the occasional, my pizza didn't taste too good, a lot of those. The only kind of major theme was wait times for rides, not getting into the park and getting out, but in the park itself. I'm assuming you see those critiques as well.
Absolutely, and it depends which park were you looking at, California or Florida?
I think it was California, but it might have been both.
Okay, now they're two very different parks. Now Florida is heavily affected in its peak season by the rain and the lightning. Unfortunately, Florida is a lightning capital of the USA, so it does have an effect. But wait times again. It's very, people will always justify a long wait time. If it's 20 minutes, that's too long. If it's 45 minutes, that's still going to be too long.
And the community welcome center is an important point to that, because it's going to be open. So anyone that has a question regarding how something might be working or where we are in the process, they're going to be able to come in.
Absolutely.
And just sit down.
Staffed at 5 days a week?
Correct.
Okay. How many of these guys did you send out, Phil?
Oh, I don't know the exact number, but it went to every deliverable address in the town of Goshen. Might have been 7,000 or 8,000.
Did you get one? You missed one.
I got one.
What's that?
Yeah.
You got one, right?
I did.
Maybe my wife got it. I'm usually home late, so.
Phil, has there been an aha moment in terms of, in the last 2-3 months, either in terms of water, sewer, traffic, in which you really did a 180 on something in terms of planning that came up that, obviously it's an ongoing deal, but is there some?
Well, I think I'll give you, for instance, in terms of when we first started looking at traffic and access, we weren't even really, we looked very quickly at how could we get people, let's say, from Manhattan here. So we looked at, okay, we have the train line, and would people really take that with the Secaucus transfer, and what if we had them come up on the Hudson line and then bus them over? And then, people started saying, well, what about a direct bus? We have express buses. So from that perspective, we went back to the team and said, this makes sense here to look at this, because people already commute from Orange County to the city. The generation that we're marketing this to, they're mass transit people. I mean, all my kids live in the city. They don't have a car. My daughter does, but that's because she reverse commutes. But they do everything on mass transit. And their friends, I don't have any grandkids yet, but their friends, they'll get on a bus. They'll get on a train with their kids, with the stroller, and they'll go to these venues. So I think we have an opportunity here to really take advantage of that, because we have people coming on buses, and we cut down the number of single passenger cars.
It really impacts
Yeah.
the traffic patterns that'll
Yeah.
change. I mean, we can see it whenever
Woodbury
Commons,
You see Woodbury
all the
Commons.
buses come out of the city.
Yeah, and we already operate a shuttle bus, for example, in
And that's-
Orlando, that goes from the centre of Orlando, that shuttles our guests down from Orlando down to the theme park. That again, that takes vehicle traffic off of the roads and goes onto the bus system. And then for our local hotels that we have operating around the theme parks, so the Holiday Inns, the Marriotts, etc., they are called our bed and brick partners, and we operate a smaller shuttle bus that works with those, so that those guests, they literally leave their car at the hotel, they've purchased a slightly cheaper ticket to come to the park, and then they've got a shuttle bus that will come and collect them 2 to 3 times in the morning and then drop them off in the evening. So yes, small numbers, but as we've seen in Middletown with that cluster of hotels, that's quite a few guests that can be staying up there. And if you have one shuttle bus that serves that area, that's a lot more cars that don't need to be on the road.
So you're talking about Crystal Run Crossing. That's
Right, exactly that.
With all the
too.
hotels, right.
So that would be one feasible location
Absolutely.
for a shuttle bus. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because it's fine. I know we're all on tight schedules, but basically, I was talking to the planning officer in Goshen. He was saying that they got one hotel. Everybody can't stay there.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen.
I know, absolutely. It will go from the local area, and currently where I've been staying has actually been those hotels in Middletown itself. So absolutely, we will engage with them as we get further along the process to make sure that we can provide a shuttle bus service to them.
The other thing that Phil mentioned, that we were, when we first looked at the site and the site plans, okay, we're getting people off the highway. You go to any event, you go to Giant Stadium or any, okay, you get them off the highway, okay, but getting them into the parking area. So the first thing that we liked with the site plan was this long entry road on our property to be able to get people back to the parking area. And then as we started discussions, we talked about, okay, the possibility of having people pay when they leave, because that cuts down on your processing time tremendously. So that's something that's evolved already, our first look was, okay, great, we have all this stacking distance, because that's my concern is, I can get them off the highway, but if I can't get them into the parking area, that's a problem. So we had plenty of stacking on the initial site plan, but then we got into discussions, and they said, this may work here where we, have people pay as they leave. So now you're metering them leaving, and that's helpful in terms of just a logistics issue.
Is there any big ticket venue, and airports are different because it's staggered, are there any big entertainment venues that do exit parking?
Well, yes, obviously it's a very different country, but our 4 major theme parks in the United Kingdom operate that model. So we've already seen it, and Alton Towers is our largest theme park within the group. They already operate that post-exit.
Anywhere in the United States?
I don't know.
Certainly airports, right?
Yeah, but airports are different.
Yeah, no, it's a different.
Yeah,
No, I don't know of any.
I don't know of any.
And I didn't even go to look, because once we got into discussions and they said we can do it, I said, okay, great.
I think the thing is there possibly may be some in the US, but charging for parking is still a relatively new concept in Europe. We didn't used to charge for parking 5 to 10 years ago. We wouldn't even dream of it. And the fact that it's worked at our theme parks in the UK, where we're generally not used to charging for parking, is proven to me absolutely this is the model that we'll invest in for New York.
So what's the price of entry going to be?
I don't know those.
So the price of entry at the moment is still being established. So we're, for example, our Florida and our California parks, they range between 80 and 110, per person. But for example, for Florida, you can purchase an annual pass for about $99.
Okay.
So we're still looking at what the pricing model will be for this park. But with that, we offer a tremendous amount of discount coupons. So we're always working with some sort of food chain that will offer buy one, get one frees, or discounts so that you can get into
Are
the
you
park.
working with the chamber and businesses, so as you say, it's not just a matter of a signage to encourage, but come here, you can go to Catherine's or someplace in more people, like any place outside specific location?
Yeah, absolutely. So not only will we encourage that for our up to 1,500 employees that they'll be using the local area, but our guests as well. Now, the average stay for a guest staying in a Legoland hotel is 2.5 nights. Now, as great as our hotel is, not every adult wants to spend both nights dining in a Legoland hotel, and we get that, we understand that. So we will absolutely encourage people to go out to the local area and enjoy the local businesses and dine with them as well.
I had heard the same price points, and I was thinking, in terms of the parking and getting people out quicker you can. And some will get penalized, some will not, but have you considered just maybe, I don't know what the price of parking will be, just kind of put it at a lower level, maybe rather than go $100 for entry, make it $107, and that includes your parking.
The problem is then you're charging every single person.
I agree.
And obviously not every single person is driving a vehicle. So, you're charging everyone who is coming in via shuttle, or charging everyone who's coming in by bigger transportation,
Right.
and then you're charging everyone who might be in a Chrysler Grand Voyager, and there might be 8 people in that vehicle. So
Right.
that's why we just charge that one parking fee, and then we try and keep the price
And the
point.
parking fee is $10?
So, for example, our parking fee in Florida is $17.
I'm just trying to think, and maybe I'm speaking out, but if someone's gonna come in and pay $90 to $100, and they can get out quicker to go ahead and roll the cost of the parking inside of it.
Yeah.
That's
Our
the
annual-
price point that if they can get that, they can roll the price.
Our annual passes include parking. So if you are going to be from the local area, and you have an annual pass, that does include parking already.
Okay.
So there's different options for our annual passes. So you can have an annual pass that does include parking or doesn't include parking. So that also speeds up the process of getting them out of the park as well.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you're saying 80?
Just
the
try-
price- yeah,
Go ahead,
price-
sorry, Julie.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just chiming in for a minute. From a perspective from Legoland, California, very few people actually pay full gate prices, much to my dismay, because as a PR person, I'm only responsible for full gate prices. But because there's so many great promotions and so many great activities we do on our website, we do during the summer a buy one day, get 5 free. We have a premium play pass right now that is a buy one day ticket and you get the rest of the year included. A lot of those are included for our locals and for those that are in the area that can do that. And some of them, which Phil was saying, include parking and include that within those groupings. We have so many promotions that we do with local restaurants including whatever Subway or McDonald's or Burger King that we also get in the area. We add in local restaurants as well, that will give them discounts. So it's very rare. As a mom, the first thing I do is go online and look and see what the discounts are, because I will never pay full price, and most of them won't have to.
I know Disney and some other places where, depending on the time of season in which you go, and granted those are like in Florida, so it's year-round, that the cost is less if it's in an off-season type day. Is that, I don't know if that's Legoland?
Disney actually charge the same pricing for their parking year round.
Yeah,
but the actual admission prices, they do flex up and down according to the season. Now, we generally keep our main gate pricing the same, but our offers, our promotions that Julie was mentioning, they do flex up and down with the shoulder seasons to try and encourage people to go in our shoulder periods. And for example, the local residents, they will know when they want to go to the park, and they'll have that access as well. We've already discussed that for this park we will have essentially an educator's pass. So people within the county will have an annual pass. If they are in a teaching role, they'll receive a complimentary annual pass to come to the park. So that encourages them to come and learn about the facility in the park, to hopefully bring future children, and then hopefully bring their families as well. And that's something that's very, very successful for our Florida and our California parks.
All those structures that are built out of blocks, do you take them down in the winter?
So the buildings themselves are all built. They certainly look like they're built out of bricks.
Okay.
And that's the imagination of a child, is that we want them to be brought out of
Someone had
bricks.
to ask the question.
Related question is, there are a lot of adult Lego fans.
Absolutely.
Any things planned for adults? Because I know they're not welcome during the day, not without kids anyway.
Well, that's incorrect.
Okay.
So absolutely adults are welcome during the day. What you're possibly referring to is some of the information around our discovery centres, where we don't allow lone adults to go into those facilities. A Legoland theme park is designed to allow for adults to go and visit during the day.
Right.
And we do also have special events, which is for AFOLs, which is the adult fans of Lego. And that means that those we'll put on special events for those groups. But remember, our park is truly built for children 2 to 12. So there's certain elements of a park which will be fantastic for an adult, and then there's certain elements and attractions that aren't necessarily.
I have a friend who may be one of your best customers worldwide. He's from Canada. He's 68 years old.
There you go.
He will want to come and play and build what he can build.
Absolutely.
So there will be adult only, or
not adult only.
Never, okay.
There'll be areas where adults will be able to play.
So you're never going to have the equivalent of Pleasure Island like we have at Disney World, nothing that.
Well, there's a reason why Pleasure Island doesn't exist anymore at Disney World. So.
There are actually about more than 60,000 adult fans of Lego, the ones that I was referencing. Many of them have become master model builders at our Legoland parks and our Legoland Discovery Centers. I mean, ideally, they are getting paid to play with toys. It's like the ultimate dream for a Lego adult fan.
Other
And their
questions?
job is to design and build and maintain the more than 15,000 models in the park. So it's kind of a cool job to be able to get paid to play with Lego.
Absolutely.
Barry. We spent a lot of time talking about the flyover option. Phil, you mentioned there's a lot of hurdles for that. Just if there's anything that anyone wants clarification on that, or it's something you're studying.
Yeah, we're studying it. It's, there's a lot of different agencies that have to weigh in on that. There's the cost. So, I mean, it's kind of too early for me to say one way or the other, except that we have to study it. If it's something that's feasible, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Feasible being both and
approval-wise, and yeah.
You're not looking. I mean, 86 isn't coming into play at this point.
Well, what we've been told by DOT on a preliminary basis is that it hasn't advanced the way that it was anticipated. Right. Okay, that with the exception of the 131 interchange moving ahead, there's really nothing that's been advanced. However, everything that we do has to go under the guise of that it meets the standards for an interstate in terms of improvements, acceleration lanes, etc. So that's all I can say is that anything we design or modify has to meet those standards. But DOT hasn't advanced that.
Are there major differences that you would have to deal with? I mean, given that 86 may not ever come to fruition.
Right.
the fact that you've got to actually include that in the planning, what would be like some major key points? I know,
For example, the 125 interchange closure was something DOT was looking at because of separation distance between interchanges. So that's something that has to be addressed. But in terms of, I would say years ago there was more separation. DOT standards have been brought up to pretty much the Fed standards. So in terms of deceleration lanes or acceleration lanes, there's not a lot of difference there. It's just that once we touch it, we have to bring it up to those standards in terms of our design. So
On Route 17.
clearances, now everything is the
I
same
mean, there was been
clearance.
talk of widening, there was all the stuff about exit 131. Both of those were delayed a long time because of lack of funding or lack of
Correct.
commitment.
Correct.
Do you have any worries in that area? You may get a great plan and you may want to put your money in. Is the state going to come along when you need them?
Well, in terms of widening of 17, I think right now we're assuming that's not going to happen, other than the improvements that we're talking about, acceleration lanes, et cetera. Some modifications where the transition from 3 to 2 occurs.
But do any of your plans rely on state funding?
I don't understand. You're saying in terms of the I-86 issue, or just
No,
in
in terms of
general?
what you want to do.
Oh, I think there's probably some level of what involvement there is. That's part of it. That's the discussion above me.
Right.
I have to come up with the design and the cost. But probably some level above me is in those discussions. But I think at a bottom line, there's going to reach a point where, I think from Legoland standpoint, we said, look, you got to figure on $10 million here to get this going. Now, if we get into a flyover or something more substantial relative to the main line of 17, then there's probably a better likelihood
I'm just saying,
that
I
they
think
would
your
have done.
timetable is faster than the average state timetable for traffic improvement.
Understood.
Absolutely, but at the same time, the state has shown a lot of interest in the development of the park. It will bring a lot to the economy of the local area, and we are very, very keen to bring Legoland to the state of New York, and as long as everyone else wants that to happen, then it will go ahead. As we mentioned, the pilot. The 30-year pilot is incredibly important for us to be an incentive to come to this area, and we want to make sure that we do everything diligently, and we work to our fastest time schedule that we can, and then we can only rely so much on the people who might make those decisions for the state, for example.
Going back to what Mike was saying before, it's like I know you were exploring Haverstraw before in that area. And you and I were both at that meeting 3 weeks ago where they had 1,000 people. Is there any time where you guys look around and you say, "Oh my God, why did I come out here to Goshen?"
No, not at all. I think when I realised that restaurants were closed on a Monday, I was a little bit I found that a little bit strange. But I didn't have anywhere to get lunch. But no, honestly, this is a fantastic area. I'm very excited to move here. I've worked for Merlin for 15 years, and I have absolute faith in the business and what we do. We can't do everything on our own. We have a full team working with us today and answering questions for you guys. That we've got experts in our field in every single area to make sure that we put all of the information out there, and we get the correct information to make sure that this project goes ahead. No one wants a theme park to not be a success, and we've proven that success in California and in Florida, as well as our European theme parks. And we wouldn't be the world's #2 theme park operator and leisure tourism operator if we didn't know what we were doing.
I appreciate time. If anybody has questions, I know there'll be further
The
discussion.
lapel pins, are they for sale?
They are not, unfortunately. They're for employees only. But if you know how to build, you could probably make one. Yes, I can just look at you with some sort of glance. You could possibly make one if you wanted.
We'll get
Are the
you a
cufflinks
cake
as well, because after our meeting the other day, we said we want those
The
cufflinks.
cufflinks are made by our master model builders, only for employees, unfortunately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.